All right, I'm just gonna waste 2 minutes again, like I usually do, give people a chance to get here. Uh, One thing I wanted to check real quick is how's my signal doing this week? Oh man, I'm so totally lit by the side right now. The sun's over there now. Anyway, last week my signal was a little bit worse than usual, and a week and a half ago, I actually was like losing internet, like it was coming in and out. And we talked to the guy who gives us internet, and he was like, "Yeah, I think it's just some kind of weather problem. So, check on it tomorrow, see if it's fine." And I don't know. The next day it seemed all right, but then, last week a few people commented on my video quality being down a little. So maybe it was just, some atmospheric disturbances, electricity in the air, too much moisture. I don't know. But yeah, people are saying it looks good right now. So hopefully that's good. And I'm gonna try not to move too much too. Because when you move more, like this, I'll pixelate. Whoa, check out my muscles. Whoa, I gotta move. Oh, wow, I've been doing some good. I'm been flexing, nice. I've been doing lots of digging lately. All right, perfect. The alarm told me to join the show, and I did. That's excellent. Pitch wife? What is pitch wife? Do you throw things? Looking good. I like your model bridge behind you. Oh yeah, the model bridge behind me. I love that thing. It was over here last week, but my kids are always taking it and then they play with it. I'm really glad I built that because the kids. I'll have to show you guys the bridge too. I'm not going to do it during this live because anytime I take the camera and move around, it gets all pixely. But I'm going to get some video of the bridge. I'm going to talk a little bit about the bridge today in a minute. Let's see. I watched a video of someone going around your old place in the woods. Have you seen it? Blast from the past. No, I have not seen. So once I let's just cover this question because this comes up every week. But once I sold my place in Vermont, I didn't look back. I made a conscious decision to just not pay attention to it anymore. Like I didn't want to know. Because when you put your heart and soul into something and then you transfer ownership to someone else, it's kind of hard to divorce yourself from all the connection you had to that place and then see someone else doing who knows what with it. And maybe I wouldn't like it, maybe it'd be fine. I don't know. But I was like, you know what? Now that it's yours, it's totally yours. So when I sold it, I just completely moved on, cut the umbilical cord, and I came here. So I haven't kept up with what's going on in my old place in Vermont at all. Although I do think it's funny that I think there are probably more views on the videos of people going to explore my place now than there are on my videos here, which is funny. Although it is a lot easier to make videos when you just come upon a place and you just look around what's interesting and show that versus when you're actually building the place, because then you end up not necessarily showing the most interesting thing all the time. It's kind of more like interesting to an engineer as opposed to a tourist. So I guess that's fine because I want my videos to be more interesting to an engineer or someone who's kind of involved. Anyway, okay, let me start talking about what I was gonna talk about here. I have a little bit of a monologue I thought I'd mention. And here we go. Recently, I've been having a little bit of difficulty with my kids, particularly the 12-year-old. 12-year-old girl, she's got all these hormones and things going on, and she's emotional and angry and just all over the place, right? And we've just had a month and a half of rain. Well, we've kind of been out of it for the last couple weeks. Now things are starting to kind of turn back into ooh, it's nice and sunny outside, and I can actually kind of rely on that a little bit. But for November and a lot of December, it was just rainy, so everyone was stuck inside, and getting a little bit of cabin fever. Is that what you call it? People are getting antsy and anxious, and now that the sun came back out, I'm like, all right, we got to get back to what we were doing before, which is we go outside and get some exercise, and that helps burn off some of this tension, particularly in the almost teenage girl who really needs to burn off some of that anger, that tension. So a few days ago, like earlier, I don't know, Wednesday or something. Anyway, earlier this week, I said to my kids, hey, you want to go out and dig up on the hill, because it's all dried out and we can dig there now again, because we haven't been able to dig up there for a while because it's just been too mucky and wet. And they've gotten so used to just being stuck inside that they're kind of like, oh, I kind of feel like just doing stuff in here. But the problem is they're stuck inside and they're getting into fights with each other, and they're just like short-tempered and angry. And I'm like, I have this vision of my head of us as a family working together toward making our whole family better and making our home better. And, we all work together and cooperate. I have this vision of this in my head, but it's not happening now. And, it's that happens when you get stuck inside because of the weather for a while. But I need us to get back to that. But now we're stuck in a rut. So I'm like, come on, guys. I mean, let's go. You guys love going out and digging and getting out in the air and getting some fresh air. Come on, you guys love this. But they don't remember that they love it because it was like a while ago when we did that. So, after a bit of, I don't feel like doing that. No, a bunch of whining. Eventually, I was just like, all right, Jaimie, figure out the answer right now. Come on, figure it out. So I sat there for a few minutes and I thought about it, and I was like, okay. They're not interested in getting involved because they don't understand the benefit they're going to get in terms of they're going to feel better after they do it. Like, that's something I've learned because I've gone through this process a whole bunch of times. I know that if I go do some exercise, I'm always going to feel better, even if I don't feel like doing it at the beginning. But they haven't learned this yet. So I gotta figure out some way of motivating them. But I don't just want to scream at them or like drag them out of the house and yell at them, because that's just, it's just exhausting. And then as soon as I'm not yelling at them, they're going to stop. So I was like, okay, I need to get them somehow involved with some kind of positive result that happens from this exercise, that happens more immediately than like, we're going to finish this thing eventually and it's going to motivate you. No, they don't care what's going to happen like 2 months from now. No, I need something they're going to get some kind of reward today, but not an artificial reward. I don't want to give them some bull crap medal thing, here's a treat, whatever. So I said, all right, kids, here's the deal. Make sure you're listening, because I'm only saying this once. I'm not arguing with you about it anymore. Anyone who wants to earn dinner, let's go dig. Anyone who does not want to earn dinner and does not want to eat dinner, stay in here, do whatever you want to do. And I walked out the front door. All 4 kids came with me. It was great. Zero more complaining. And it had already been like 10 or 15 minutes of like back and forth. Come on, no. Yeah, once it was like, now there's a reason to do it, they're like, let's go. And at the beginning, we were doing some digging. And there's a bit of griping, and I'm like, come on, guys, you gotta get involved with this. Like we're building this bridge, because now I've got this bridge, kind of like this, but with dirt coming up, dirt going over, and dirt going down the other side, and it's almost up to the other island that we're going to. So we almost have a bridge and a path right up to the other island, which we could. Right now, you have to walk through a bit of mud, but as soon as we get this path done, you'll just be able to walk right over to the other island, and it'll be amazing, right? So I'm like, come on, guys, you guys get involved in this, and then it'll be your bridge too. It's not like you're just coming and just walking on this bridge. No, it'll be yours. You did work, and you can value that. And they're just kind of like, oh, yeah, but But the fact that they know they have to earn dinner, so they have to keep digging, kept them going. And I said at the beginning, all right, we're going to do 10 wheelbarrows. And, there was a bit of, 10 wheelbarrows, so much. No, that's what we're doing. If you want dinner, you got to help do 10 wheelbarrows. And my son's little wheelbarrow, we counted that as half, even though it's not half, but whatever. We still counted it as half. But I made a stipulation. We can't just do all his little tiny wheelbarrows. We can't do 20 of his little wheelbarrows. There can only be one of his little wheelbarrows for every big full wheelbarrow. So we're digging. There's a little bit of griping at first, But then because they're motivated to keep going, by the third or fourth wheelbarrow, they start just like, they still didn't look excited about it. Well, one kid was excited about it, but the almost teenager was still a little bit like, oh, fine, oh, let's go, come on. She's starting to get in a little bit, and she starts still trying to act like she doesn't like it. But then halfway through, I was like, all right, let's go get a water break. Let's take a water break and then go back out. Now at that point, we'd gotten 6 done because of the way it works out. We kind of do 1.5 wheelbarrows at a time. We couldn't stop at 4.5, so I stopped at 6. 1.5 because big wheelbarrow and the little wheelbarrow, we were doing them together. So anyway, then we got into the second half, which was only 4 full wheelbarrows, or we ended up doing 3 full ones and 3 small ones. And we started going, and then the kids more and more, even the 12-year-old started kind of speeding up, being like, ooh, we're getting somewhere, we're actually getting to the goal, we were almost at the number, let's go. And they started getting more and more into it. And by the end, we got to the last wheelbarrow, and instead of stopping at 10, we did the extra half wheelbarrow, the extra little wheelbarrow, and did 10.5. And then we got to the bottom, and everyone walked down the path, because the way it works is like I'm digging out dirt way up on the top of the hill to flatten out this area, to put a little house up there and to have like a field where we can play frisbee and whatever. So we're flattening out an area up there, and then we're taking the dirt down this path along a thing to build this path to the other island, the bridge thing I was talking about. So everyone came down. And instead of just running in the house, most of them, I think one of them ran in the house, but the other 3 came to the bridge, and they're looking at the dirt and like, wow, look how far we got. We're getting so far. And even the 12-year-old came out after and was like, yeah, that's pretty good. And then I was asking him, how many more wheelbarrows do you think we need? And it probably took us about, I don't know, a little over an hour and 15 minutes maybe. But the mood after versus the mood before was a complete change. And for the rest of the day, there was no fighting. Everyone was happy. It was just like the atmosphere in my house was so good. And it lasted even through the next morning, until I said, at 2:00 the next afternoon, all right, do you guys want dinner or no dinner? And then I ended up making a rule, which was that if you don't want to dig, I'm not going to make you starve, but you just get noodles with no sauce. And the sauce is amazing. The sauce has got all the stuff in it. The noodles are just plain and boring. So I'm not going to make anyone starve, but if you don't help, you just get plain noodles. And there was a little bit of griping, but then they're immediately like, all right, because I walked out the door and they're like, oh, we better go. And just having that thing where I have the kids involved in their life, and they're not just getting everything for free, totally changed the atmosphere, made everything so much better. And I'm not gonna, they know they're not gonna starve, but they also know that I'm not gonna give them the good dinner until they do the thing. Because once Papa says something, they know I've got Adventure Builder honor. Once I say something, that is it. It is a done deal. So yeah, they got more involved, and everything was happier and cooperative, and they started talking about how to get the bridge done and how many more wheelbarrows we need to do and all this stuff. And they just it just got their minds involved and engaged in real life and what we're doing here. And not to say that what they do the rest of the time is terrible or anything, because most of the time, or I shouldn't say most of the time, a lot of the time, well, what they were doing before we went and dug was 3 of the kids were building robots with Lego. Amazing, using their imagination, being creative. And then the other one was the older girl. She was my older daughter. She was sewing dresses for a doll, which is also, very creative and a good thing to do. And she's being active and everything. But, none of that stuff actually improves their day right now, other than the satisfaction of doing it, of course, which is, you build a thing and you get a thing and it's like, yay. But just adding that extra thing where it's like, if you do this, then you get dinner. Like you're actually working for your dinner. And we even had a conversation after digging on the second day where I was like, we did dinner, or we did all the digging, and then we jumped in the ocean and did swims, and then got all clean, had our shower. Showers here are hilarious because there's a big outdoor shower, and like I and the little kids all get in at the same time, and they're just running back and forth. It's hilarious. Anyway, then we came in and we're eating dinner, and I'm like, oh man, this dinner tastes so great after doing all that exercise. And my son is like, yeah, man, this tastes so good after, I don't know, is it because we did all this exercise? And my 10-year-old daughter's like, boy, I feel like this is making muscles. And yeah, if you, if you're, I don't know if other people are having the same situation with their kids, but I just thought I'd share that story because, well, let's face it, a lot of people have that situation with their kids. Yeah, there are always ways you can get them involved in life and in doing things. And this is actually one of the huge benefits to living in an off-grid kind of lifestyle, or in the wilderness, or even if you just have a yard where there's some kind of yard work to do and you can get the kids outside working together to do something. It's really beneficial for the whole family dynamic to get their minds starting to think about the fact that what they do actually affects real life. It's just, there's just so many benefits, And now I need to think of something to do on rainy days, because we're not going to go out and dig in the mud on a rainy day. I can't even get the wheelbarrow down the hill on a rainy day. It's too slick and everything would fall. So I'm going to have to come up with some rainy day stuff, some rainy day projects to do inside. Not sure what yet, but something. I'll have to come up with something. Maybe if anyone has any suggestions out there, I know some of you are parents. What do you do with your kids if you want to get them involved in something and, make them earn their dinner, so to speak, or literally? Do you have some indoor things that you do with them, get them involved, paint the house, or I don't know, build something? Or one thing I was actually thinking is, I was talking a few weeks ago about making like a background that I can hang up while I'm doing these kind of lives. And I might get them involved with me helping to make that, but that's just going to be one thing. So what do you guys do with your kids, indoors or outdoors? Okay, let's see where I am. And right now I just talked for like 15 minutes, so I'm going to be 15 minutes behind the comments, but I'm going to try to go through them all. Let's see. Why did you leave the Dome House, the one in Vermont? Ah, yes. Okay. It's famous now. It is kind of famous now. It was famous before too, which is probably why I sold it in one day. It was really easy to sell. Although I did take the first offer that I got on it, so that probably made it a lot easier to sell. Why did I leave the Dome House, my house in Vermont? There are two kind of ways I can approach this. One is that my first choice for a place to live, as long as I'm on the Earth, not counting outer space and spaceships and stuff, my first choice to live on the Earth was always an island, because I love boats, I love being in the ocean, I love swimming, I love fishing, I just love the ocean. I really love being on the ocean. I really love getting in a boat and driving somewhere. Yeah, it's slower in the ocean than it is on a road, but the road is like, it's everywhere. You just pick the direction you want to go and you just go there. As long as there isn't a piece of land in the way, you just go anywhere. I always felt so restricted driving in these little lanes with all these people, many of whom have road rage, and it's just, man, put me in a boat in a wide open sea. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. And, living in a tropical place, there's an all-year growing season here, and I want to grow food. I want to get to the point where we're growing enough food that we don't have to go buy anymore. It doesn't mean we won't go buy food that we're not growing or anything, but I want to be at the point where we don't have to. It's a lot harder to do in a cold climate. So there are a bunch of things like that where, like, living on an island in the Caribbean is just like my first choice. Like, ever since I was a little kid, I've always wanted to do this. My second choice was always living on a mountain, and that was amazing when I bought the mountain in Vermont, and I moved up there, built this amazing dome, and it had the trampoline and the slide, and all this super cool stuff. There's spring water. I mean, it was an amazing place. But I was always like, this is second choice though. There's something I want more than this. And just imagine if I could take the top of this mountain and plop it in the ocean somewhere. Like, oh, that would be amazing. And now I'm here, and I've got a dome that's like four times the size of the other one by volume, maybe more than that. I mean, this place is huge. I have so much space. I have a better workshop than I ever had before. It's just amazing. Now, the other thing had to do with more kind of political issues. The United States, I wasn't living in the United States before. The United States is increasingly against freedom. And that's, the United States freedom was a huge thing in the United States. And then it became just a talking point. And then it became something that you do not have at all. You do not have freedom. You do not build your own house without asking permission. And I did build my own house without asking permission. And the only reason I got away with it is probably because it was like 15 years ago or whatever it was. I mean, it gets increasingly harder as time goes on. There are more and more restrictions and more rules. And the other reason is because I just did it out in the woods. No one was there. No one saw it. Although eventually, I was on the news a few times, and I also had this YouTube channel, and, I was in a bunch of different magazines and stuff. I was in Wired magazine a few times for like stuff. But anyway, the local tax man eventually saw me on the local news, and then came over and was like, wow, I see you're doing all this stuff. We're going to have to tax the crap out of you, because you've been doing all these improvements to your property. And just the idea that I have to pay the government for my own hard work to improve my own life, it's just no, that's it. It gives a huge incentive to sitting around and doing nothing. It makes it harder to make improvements to your life, and there's just so many problems with it. And then just the fact that there are so many regulations, and increasing regulations in the United States and Canada and Europe and Australia, and there's all this stuff against living off grid and being independent. It's just getting harder and harder to own your own property and do your own thing. So anyway, that's another reason I wanted to get out of there. Plus, I had kids, and my kids were still pretty young at the time, and I looked at the kids around me, and there were some kids with decent childhoods and everything. I was living in a pretty rural area where kids still played outside and stuff, but just increasingly I was seeing more and more kids just with the tablet or the phone, and I was like, I can't raise my kids in that society. Plus, I'm going to be paying for public school, and if I don't want to put my kids in public school, I'm going to have to fill out all these forms and ask permission to raise my own children and not let the government. Forget it. So yeah, I mean, there's that whole issue, and eventually I was just like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here for my sake, for my kids' sake. We need to go somewhere where we can have more freedom to live the lives we want, where I can look at my kids and say, okay, what do they need? Not what do I need to do, legally speaking, to, be within the regulations. Like, what do my kids actually need? So, for example, this week, my kids needed to go outside and dig, and I needed to get them involved in a project where we all work together, and that's what they needed. And living in this place, there's enough freedom that I can do that. I can look at them and say, okay, what do they need? That's what I need to do, without constantly thinking, okay, what is the US or the Canadian government or wherever I'm living, what is the government going to require of me with my kids? I also need to take that into account while trying to figure out what they need. And it's just, yeah, living with more freedom is just so much better. All right, that's like a 20-minute answer to that short question. Samuel Chamel says, smash that like button. I don't know what the like button does, but cool. Good morning, Reed. Jason Adams asks, how's the running trail? Well, the running trail is what we were working on when we were digging. You know, with the bridge where it's got the dirt over it and it's going to the other island. So right now, I've got the running trail that starts up at the top of the hill where we're flattening out an area, and the running trail kind of curves down the side of the hill on the island, down to the bottom, and goes toward the other island over there. It comes like right by the house, and then kind of curves toward the other island. And pretty soon we're going to have that connected to the other island, and then you'll be able to run up onto the other island, and there's a little path up there. Not really like a manicured path or anything, it's just from where people are walking. And then you'll be able to run down the other side and maybe do a loop and come back. But eventually, you know, we'll have it keep going somewhere else. So the running trail is going well. It's you know, it keeps getting longer and longer. It's great. It's a running joke to ask about your Vermont house now. Yes, I did notice that. That is true. The big welcome to my house sign is still in your old dome. The big welcome to my house sign. Let me think. I don't remember. I don't remember the sign. I've not seen it for so long. Yeah. Good day, everyone, David says. Phil, hey, I'm adding place in Vermont to my bingo sheet. Once you start gardening, your views will skyrocket. People love that stuff. Also fishing. Well, I've been doing some gardening, but yeah, I do need to. I haven't gotten really into it. I'm still trying to like mess and figure out, you know, fishing. Yeah, I need to do more fishing too. Alex says, hi, Jaimie, question. I'm currently in the process of digging a root cellar under my porch. Under your porch, cool, okay. I'm about 4 feet down and hit water, ooh. Do you have any thoughts or suggestions on how you would build it? Well, if you hit water, that raises a lot of questions. Like is that water going to keep, like if you scoop the water out, is it going to keep filling in there? There are a lot of things to think about if you've got water there. Could you use it as a water source for something? Or is it just like you got down to where the water is and, you know, it's kind of, you're just going to build above that and it'll be fine? Well, it makes me think of when I built something in the spring house back in Vermont. I basically built this pool in a stream. And what I did was I dug out where I wanted it to be, even though the water was kind of running through. And then I put like a plastic sheet down on top of that, so the water was under the plastic sheet. And then I put concrete on top of that. And it was a little bit tricky because the water kept filling up and, you know, it like floating the plastic sheet. So I had to like force it to stay down. So I made some concrete squares, put the plastic sheet down, laid the concrete squares on, like on the floor and up the sides to force the concrete or the plastic sheet to go down, even though the water kept trying to float it up. And then put a bunch of concrete between the cracks and just filled in the whole thing. And then I ended up with a pretty good, yeah, whatever you call it, like a concrete bathtub kind of thing. And I don't know if it would have leaked or not. Probably wouldn't because the concrete or the plastic sheet was under there, but it didn't matter because I had water coming into the pool and then running out of the pool because that's what it was supposed to do. But yeah, if you want to build something like it was a root cellar, right? Yeah, if you want to build a root cellar down there, you should be able to do it that way and make sure you have a good plastic sheet before you put the concrete so the water doesn't get in. But another thing you might want to think about is just putting like a bunch of gravel down to get up above the water. That would probably be the most recommended thing. Like if you dug down to water and you want to build something down there, put like, I don't know, 6 inches of gravel. Maybe you can do a little less, depends how much water's there. But just to get above the water and let the water run through the gravel and do what it's going to do, and then just build on top of that. Of course, you know, I'd have to see it to really get a good idea. Do you still want to have people come and help with the islands? I don't know if I ever wanted people to come and help with the islands. Like, I want people to come and I want to I want to build a village. I want to have a community. Like I want cool neighbors, but I don't really need help with the islands. Um, I mean, if we work together and build a garden and stuff like that, cool. But um, I don't think I really need help with the islands. Um, but I definitely want people to come and live. People who are like me, who look around at society and are like, yeah, I think this is going downhill. I think this is going in a bad direction. It'd be kind of good to, live in some place where we can be more self-sufficient and independent so that, you know, as things are slowly crumbling, we'll be insulated from it and not just relying on money for everything. Because, as everyone is noticing right now, hopefully you're noticing by now, inflation's getting pretty bad, and there's nothing, there's no end in sight at the moment. Like, it's just, at this point, inflation is just getting worse and worse, and it's probably going to keep getting worse for a while. So if you're, just dependent on money, you're susceptible to issues like that. But if you can get away from that kind of society, that kind of culture, and get into one that's more, just connected with nature, nature's not just going to disappear. But if nature disappears, we're all dead anyway, so it doesn't matter. But relying more on yourself and your own hard work, and not letting that just be taken away by financial trickery. People who want that kind of life. I'm hoping more of those people will come and live here. And I have a few people here now, and it's great. It's amazing, having a few cool neighbors. And I would really like to have more. Although, if there are people who want to come and just hang out for a week or whatever, yeah, I'm open to that too. If you want to come and, do some digging, help out with some stuff, have a fun working vacation. Yeah, totally. How do people send you stuff, like donations of tools and whatnot? Oh, Jason Adams, I don't know if you're asking for personal reasons, but if you have some tools you would like to send, totally send me an email. My email should be down here, the adventurebuildermovie@gmail.com, which has just become my normal email now. Yeah, it's not that hard to send me stuff. I have an address in the United States, in Florida, and I can get things sent there, and then it gets put on a container and ends up here. Well, not here. It ends up in town. Within a month, it depends. There's like a once a month shipping container thing. Sometimes more than once a month, but it gets here within a month, and then I can go pick it up. But the only thing is, it has to be, I either have to tell the guy, or someone has to, well, I usually tell people, just send me a message saying what's in the box or whatever. And then I have to let the guy know, so that when it comes into customs, into the country, the customs guy can be like, oh, okay, this is a box full of this stuff, this is a box full of this stuff. And, they don't usually open them or anything, as long as they're fairly well documented. And it doesn't have to be like exact itemized things, but, it has to be kind of a box of old tools. Those are the best, man. Anyway, yeah, if you have something you want to send, that would be amazing. People have sent me a few things recently that have been really, really good. A few tool things I've been using recently. And then also I have an Amazon wish list, and I put stuff on there every now and then. And I originally did it because some guy was like, hey, you should have an Amazon wish list. And I'm all like, what? I don't deserve people to just say, why is it like arrogant to think that anyone's going to send me anything? He's like, no, just make your wish list. I'll get you something off it. And I was like, well, okay, that'll be amazing. So I made the wish list, and he promptly sent me a couple things. And he sent me a couple things like another couple weeks later. And yeah, now people have sent me a bunch of things, like a metal cutter. Oh, like one of those big, like, metal cutter. Oh, it's amazing. A bunch of bolts and just like tool things and like really useful things. Someone sent me some off the Amazon wish list recently, sent me emergency food rations, which I thought would be a good idea to have around. And I opened some and tested some. They taste kind of like butter cookies. They're just these little kind of boring biscuits. Although, if you don't like have a lot of like sugar ever or anything, or you don't eat cookies and stuff like that, I mean, they're basically like kind of plain cookies, and my kids loved them. One of my kids actually, oh, this is hilarious. So it's a box like a steel box, not like a super heavy duty. You'd probably call it like a tin box, even though it's not made out of tin. But a box of individual packages, and each individual package has like four of these biscuit things in it. And I was like, all right, let's open one, kids, and we'll share one of these packs of four biscuits. And my kids were like, oh, these are delicious. Um, and I was like, all right, let's put the rest, lock them up in their steel box and put them in the shelf for, emergency, or every once in a while, maybe if we're going on a boat trip or something, we'll take one with us. But for the most part, I want to save them. And and then like a week later, I noticed the lid is a little bit crooked, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, that lid is not on right. So I open up, two packs are missing. So I fix the lid, and I'm like, all right, have you been eating the emergency rations? And my one kid's like, what? And I'm like, okay, next. Have you been eating the emergency rations? Wait, what? No, okay, not you. Have you been eating the emergency rations? Oh, so busted. So one of my daughters was sneaking them. I don't even know when she was sneaking them. She was pretty sneaky about it because none of us noticed that she had eaten these things. And it's not just like four of these emergency rations. It's not just like a pop and it's gone. It's like you got to chew on it for a while. They're kind of dry. Yeah, somehow she managed to eat two whole packs at some point in time. But anyway, I had a conversation with her, and I got her to promise not to do that again. If she really wants one, she can let me know, and we can talk about it. Anyway, so yeah. Oh, and I also have Patreon. So I have a bunch of people on Patreon who send money every month through Patreon, which is kind of like the most reliable thing that keeps me going, doing the videos and everything. Just having that little stream of money coming in really makes it so I can keep doing the videos. And then I also have PayPal and Bitcoin. Someone sent me some Bitcoin recently, which is super cool, and I think I'm going to use it to buy some metal materials, some stainless steel and some marine grade aluminum stuff, which I may use some of for a boat. But I want to have some extra, just kind of as a saved up treasure, basically as treasure. Because if I buy a bunch of stainless steel poles, they're not going to degrade over time, and that way if inflation gets real bad and money becomes worth a lot less, a stainless steel pole will still be the same, and it's not going to rust or anything. And the same with like a bunch of sheets of marine grade aluminum. As long as I have a decent spot to store them, they'll keep their wealth, and I can build boats with them, or I could sell them at some point if I need to or whatever. I'd rather do that than buying gold or something like that I couldn't really use myself. I also want to get a bunch more emergency rations, just because it's a really nice thing to have, like knowing that you've got like a month worth of food that's just long-term storage food, just in case. It's a really nice thing to have, even if it's something kind of bland and not that great. Just knowing that if things suddenly go bad or something goes wrong, or you have a couple weeks in a row where just things are all going wrong, you've got like a month of food. Like, you're not going to starve, and your family's not going to starve. It's nice to have that. Kids love organizing. Get them to help you sort your collection of stuff. That is totally true. So 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was 3 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, when it was raining outside, I got the kids to help me organize like a whole bunch of like scrap metal stuff that whenever I go to town, I always go by this scrap metal guy, and I'll buy stuff from him, and then I'll bring it home, and it kind of ends up in a pile. And every now and then I'm like, all right, I got to organize this because it's kind of a mess. And yeah, they help me organize that. You're right. Kids love organizing things, and they got really into that. Not my 12-year-old. She was still busy making doll houses and stuff like that, which is also cool. But all the other kids, they were totally into it. Question: what kind of ropes are the best to replace rebar in concrete? That is an excellent question, and I almost screwed that up when I built my house here. So you don't want to use polyester rope, because polyester rope, it kind of disintegrates in the concrete. Like the cement reacts with it and it disintegrates and gets weaker. You should double check this on the internet or wherever, but if I remember correctly, polyethylene rope is fine in the concrete. It'll last, and that's what I've got in here, and then in all of these verticals. And you can actually see some of my polyethylene ropes sticking out, and every once in a while I'll go yank one of those parts, and they're still strong. And my house has been here for a year, and I yank on them, and it seems good. What is it? Nylon or vinyl ropes are fine too. I don't know. You'd have to double check this, but polyethylene ropes are good, and then I think either vinyl or nylon ropes, but definitely double check that. But not polyester ropes. And I started building my house, and I didn't even think about that, like what kind of rope I need to use, because this is a plastic rope, right? Why is it going to disintegrate in the concrete? Is it going to be fine? No, polyester rope is not fine. And someone said something to me about ropes disintegrate in the concrete, and I was like, well, a natural rope will, sure, but like a plastic rope, oh no, a plastic rope, that'll disintegrate. And I was like, oh no. So I did some research on the internet, found out polyethylene ropes are fine, polyester ropes, no good. And I did not know what kind of ropes I was using, and I'd already done enough of my house to be like, oh crap. I wasn't like done the whole thing or anything, but I'd gotten to this far, definitely anyway. And I was like, oh no, I don't even know what kind of ropes these are. So, and then I looked up the properties of the different kind of ropes, and polyester ropes sink. I might have this backwards. One sinks and one floats. So I took a piece and it did the right thing. I think it floated. I think the polyethylene rope float. Anyway, it did the right thing, and I was like, oh God, thank you, just fate. That was just pure luck that I used the right ropes. And I mean, it was luck, but it was also because the kind of ropes, polyethylene ropes, are cheaper than polyester ropes. So when I bought ropes in town, they were the cheaper ones because they want to sell the cheaper thing. They don't even stock more expensive stuff. They just want to charge as much as they can for the cheapest thing. So in this case, I had the cheaper rope, and I was very lucky that I did. Question: oh my gosh, have you played the Ultima series? Your virtues remind me of the Avatar's virtues. Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know, the Ultima series is a series of video games. And the first video game that I really played when I was a kid was Ultima 3. And it was just an old RPG, and I have it on my computer right now, because now you can get it for free, because it's a really old game. But I'll still play that game once in a while, because a lot of those old role-playing games, they don't have the fancy graphics or anything, but they have like cool stories, and like the gameplay is really good. And as long as you don't care about the graphics, like a lot of them are still totally playable. And the Ultima video games, totally still playable. I would argue that even Ultima 1 and 2, there's one that comes before that that's a little bit, it kind of crashes too much. But like even Ultima 1 and 2, you have to take into consideration that these are old games and go into it understanding that this is a really old game. But as long as you do that, they're totally still playable. Now, the virtues he's talking about started in Ultima 4. So I played Ultima 3, and you could be a thief, and in all the Ultima games up to that point, stealing was of great value. It was a valuable skill, and you could steal stuff, and it was, in some of the games, you almost had to steal just to survive. And, people kind of complained, like parents were complaining, this is kind of teaching our kids bad values. So Richard Garriott, the guy who made these games, when he made Ultima 4, he decided, okay, we're not going to have just some evil enemy to kill. You're going to learn an ideology that has to do with, a set of 8 virtues, and basically you go through the game, and to know what to do and where to go and do the right things, you have to kind of slowly learn this like religion, not a god religion, just like a religion of virtues, of principles. And then you get to the end of the game. Oh, I don't even want to tell you. But yeah, if you want to play a video game that is like just like a revolutionary thing, and it's still amazing, because like I don't know of any other video games or video game series that do this. I'm sure there are, but just the morality of the ideology in the game was so important. That's what the game is all about. It's not about killing stuff and fighting and just getting stronger. It's like, no, you have to learn this ideology, and then you go through this really cool adventure. And the ending is amazing. And the first time I played Ultima 4, and I played it as an adult. I never had it as a kid. I wish I had that game as a kid, because I would have gotten the idea of having a set of principles, just like having virtues as a kid. That would have been so useful. But I didn't play it until I was an adult. But anyway, I got to the end of the game, and anyone who's played the game will know what I'm talking about. But when I got to the end of the game, I finished it on the spot. I didn't have to go back and cheat online or anything, or put it away and then think about it for a while. No, when I got to the end, it was like, oh, I know all the answers. I know how to do this, because of everything I'd done through the game. It all stuck and gave me this really cool ideology. And that was a huge inspiration for when I came up with the adventure builder virtues. Now, in that video game, in Ultima 4, I didn't necessarily agree with all the virtues, which is why I didn't just say, well, I'll just take that as my ideology. I thought it was a little bit sloppily put together. It was really good, though. It was really, really good. And there were a few things I didn't agree with. One of the virtues in that game was sacrifice, and I don't think sacrifice is a virtue. And not that it can never be a virtue, but the problem with sacrifice is generally when you have to sacrifice, something has already gone wrong. So when you have to sacrifice, it means you're trying to climb out of a hole that you shouldn't have been in the first place. That's what sacrifice is a lot of the time. So if you're really being virtuous, you don't get to a position where you have to sacrifice. And I also don't think that doing the right thing is a sacrifice. And that's something that's implied when sacrifice is a virtue. It's always saying that, to do the right thing, you have to lose something. But I don't like to think about it that way. I think if I'm going to exercise today, it's going to put me in pain and discomfort. And some people would say, well, that's a sacrifice. But to me, that's not a sacrifice. And if you think it's a sacrifice, it makes the pain worse, But I don't think it's a sacrifice. I think that pain is valuable too. And then, I get all these benefits, these longer term benefits from the exercise. But I don't think I'm sacrificing anything by having some exercise and going on an adventure right now. That's also a good thing. And if you think about it that way, then you can just always be in these excellent adventures that you're excited about and having a great time with. Even when things get difficult, you can still appreciate it, because you're not thinking I'm sacrificing and suffering right now. You can think I'm doing an adventure right now. So that's why I don't have sacrifice as a virtue in the Adventure Builders Club. I've probably gone on enough about that. Buy some board Dungeons and Dragons style games. Great pastime with the kids. Well, I mean, that kind of stuff is cool, but the thing is, my kids already have so much role-playing game stuff. They just make up themselves on the spot. I don't think they need anything structured for that. What I want to do more of is get them involved in something that has a direct effect on our quality of life. So gardening, for example, if I get them involved in gardening, then we eat the food, then they can say, I did that work, and then we got the food, and I got to eat the food, and they connect the hard work with the benefit. And the same thing with, we're working on the bridge together. Every time they walk across that bridge, they'll be able to say, yeah, I worked on this. I did hard work. I made this happen. And now we have this amazing thing. But I do know where you're coming from. Where are they living now? Anyone knows in chat? Where are they living now? Who's living now? Wait. I might have missed something. Do your kids have a pet? My kids have, well, not at my house, but at Deshana's house. There's a dog, a cat, a rabbit, a bunch of chickens. I think that's it, but I don't know. There might be some more stuff. At my house, and at Deshana's house, actually, we kind of have wild pets. So they're not really pets, like we don't take care of them. But, my kids have named some of the local birds that they see regularly because, birds will find a place to kind of hang out in the zone. Like there's some really pretty cranes, maybe, like the tall birds with long skinny legs and a long neck. Like I think they're cranes, but I don't know what they actually are. Crane might be a specific thing that's different than these. But anyway, they're these really cool big birds. And there's a gray one. There's gray ones and there's white ones. I don't know if it's a gender thing or what, but anyway, there's a gray one and a white one that hang out just over here, and they're always, sticking their face in the water, pulling fish out, like little fish out of the water right here. So that's my pets here. Question: I revised your cathedral build. Wait, I might have missed something. All right, let me just read it as it's written. I revised your cathedral build. How did you know it's going to work and going to hold? Especially that concrete dome. Where did your confidence come from for such a mega project? No doubts? That is a good question. Okay, so building the walls, I'm pretty sure the walls were gonna, it's just a vertical thing. It's a cylinder. As long as I've got, some tension pulling it in, it should be pretty comfortable, right? So the walls were not a big deal. I just did a rough calculation, making sure that, the concrete at the bottom's not gonna get crushed by the weight above it. But there are way huger buildings than this. So even before I did the calculation, I was pretty sure it would be fine. Now the roof, which is a 40-foot diameter dome, 2 stories high. It's just this huge dome. The only reason I thought I could do that was because of math. And, even when it was the kind of thing where I was like, mathematically, this should be possible. It should work. Now, do I actually trust that, even though my instincts are like, oh my God, that's going to be ridiculous. But I was like, no, the math says it'll work, so trust that. So I built the walls up and got to the part where I'm doing the dome. And at that point, I didn't really have a choice. I had this huge cylinder. Like, what am I going to put on the roof? I have to make some kind of roof. Whatever roof I put on it at that point is just going to be this huge thing. So I was like, well, I've kind of painted myself in a corner. What do? Abandon all that work I've already done or build the damn roof? So yeah, part of it was just painting myself into a corner to the point where it's like, I have to do it. And the other part was just the math. The math says this should work. Like, I calculated the rough amount of pressure there's going to be at the edges, like from all the weight of it on itself, and it seemed like the concrete should be able to hold it. And as long as I have enough tension around the outside holding it in, and I have 2 stainless steel cables going around the whole dome, it was just as science and math said it should work. So I just trusted it. And no doubts. I don't know. The thing is, one thing I've learned in my life is that there are going to be things I do that are going to make me nervous, that I'm going to think, well, it seems like it should be all right, but I don't know, man. Like, one was having kids. Like, having kids is scary. Like, taking responsibility for another life, that's a huge thing. But it's like, people do it. At some point you just got to say I'm going for it. And the same thing with like building this roof or leaving my house in Vermont and saying, all right, we don't know where we're going, but we're just gonna take whatever we can and we're just gonna go and hope that we can make it work and find some better place. And taking those chances are the only reason I have kids. They're the only reason I'm on an island in this, living in this place that I love. It's the only reason I built this house. You know, sometimes you just have to say, even though this is a risky thing and my instincts are going bloop bloop bloop, danger danger, you know, you just got to go for it at some point. Oh, this question, where are they living now? Anyone knows? Yeah, I live in Panama on a little island in the Caribbean. Oh, let's see. Question, are you still planning to build another giant robot one day? Yes, absolutely. So I was talking with my kids about this recently. So someone sent me a little bit of Bitcoin recently, and I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Now I've got a bit of extra funds that I could use for something. You know, I don't want to spend it all just the minute I get it or anything, but I'm like, maybe I should. So I was kind of talking to my kids about it. I was like, hey kids, if I had a bit of money to spend, would you rather me build a new boat or a giant robot? And they're just like, giant robot? Come on, man. And so I've been thinking more. I mean, the giant robot thing is been rumbling around in my head for years. Because I built the first giant robot, and that one was mostly about just learning how to do it, because I did not have the capabilities, the tools, the skills. I didn't have any of the stuff to do it, but I was like, I'm just going to do it anyway. And now that I've done it, you know, I built one giant robot. The amount of stuff I learned in doing that one, I could build a really good one now. So yeah, that is definitely in my priority list. And every time it kind of jumps up a little notch in the priority list, I get a little excited. So yes, there's definitely a giant robot in the plans. My 4 kids were much easier to convince Trick into doing that sort of stuff when they were younger, but as they became teenagers, they had other ideas. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, when I was trying to get my kids to go dig, the little ones are like, yeah, man, whatever. The 10-year-old's like, well, I don't know, I kind of want to do this, but I kind of want to come dig because we always have fun. But yeah, the 12-year-old was like, yeah. So, but after I got her to do it, now I'm not going to say this to her face because she's probably going to disagree. No, I didn't like it after. No, but after, she was happy. She was happy that we went out and did the digging. And she was like so much more chill the whole rest of the day after getting some exercise. And yeah, it was so good. That plain noodle honor lesson will last a lifetime. 4 lifetimes. You are such a great dad. I'm such a great dad. Yes. Yeah, I thought that was a really good way to do it. You know, I don't want to tell my kids you get no dinner if you don't help. Like, I don't want to make it a threat. But I do want them to feel like they're earning something. So if you want the good dinner, and one day we had spaghetti, and the spaghetti is just like boring noodles. And then like sauce with all this stuff in it, because I like to make the sauce really good, right? And another day we had rice with stuff on it, and the rice was just plain old rice with a whole bunch of like, you know, sauteed vegetables and eggs and, you know, all this stuff to go on the rice. And that's what makes it amazing. So I was just like, well, you can either have plain rice or you can have amazing dinner, and you have to earn it though. Let's go. And yeah, I think I'm going to keep doing that. And I need to remember to keep doing that. That worked really well. Great thumbnail. Yeah. Thanks, man. Question. I think that's a typo. Were you a legal resident of the U.S.? I was a legal resident of the U.S. And as soon as I left, when I left, I actually was racing Obamacare. So, you know, the universal healthcare system was just about to start. And I was like, oh, if I start the new year, I'm going to have to sign up for the thing and get all involved with that. And I was like, okay, let's just make it a goal to leave the United States before the new year, so we don't have to deal with this whole universal healthcare thing that we're going to sign up for and blah blah blah. And that just kind of became our deadline. And when I left the United States, it was like right around Christmas. So I had so I had like a week to go before we had to sign up for the Obamacare thing. And I think it was the day after Christmas, I was like, okay, I need to turn in my green card for the United States before the next year starts, because that way I cannot have to worry about paying taxes or dealing with any of the United States stuff. So I went to a U.S. embassy, and I had to find this form to lawfully abandon a green card. It wasn't like it was just like you just go there and it's all easy to do. No, you have to like find the right form, print it out, fill it out. You have to go there, and they argue with you. Do you know what you're doing? They try to get you to keep your green card, and I'm just like, no, I'm not going to be in the United States for several years at least. And if you're not in the United States, your green card expires. And if you're out of the country and it expires, you can't get another one. So that was another reason I needed to legally abandon it, just in case at some point in the future I want to get residency in the United States again, then the option stays open. But anyway, I abandoned it legally, and now I have no United States legal anything at this point. Although if I want to go back into the United States, I need to take the receipt that says I legally abandoned my green card. I don't know. I don't have any plans to go back anyway. I always try to use logical consequences to guide my kids' behavior. They're 20, 19, 16, and 14 now, so I think it worked. Well, just because they made it to that age. But yeah, totally. Whenever you're dealing with kids, it's always fastest the first time to just yell at them and make them do stuff. But it always works better in the long run if you can find some natural consequence that happens, and get them involved with that. And in something like, building the bridge, the natural consequence is kind of far off, so it wasn't good enough. So the earning dinner, which is basically like you need to put value into this place to get value out of it, that ended up being a pretty good way to do it. It would be cool to grow berries. It would be. I'm trying to grow cherries right now. Or, I have a cherry tree growing and it's looking good. They are perennial, reliable, and healthy. I will plant many bushes once I buy land. Yeah, man, berries are amazing. When I lived in Vermont, there were raspberries, blackberries, and strawberries wild in the forest. And every once in a while, I take a plant home and plant some around my house. And that was amazing, man. The wild raspberries, oh, so good. The wild strawberries were little. They were like that big, like just the end of my finger. But they tasted so good. They probably had as much nutrition in that little tiny thing as those big, giant, bloated water sacks they sell you at the grocery store. Have you noticed how strawberries and like fruits and vegetables in general have just gotten like more and more just bland, cardboardy over the years? It's kind of terrible. I think it's because they're depleting the soil and they're just doing whatever they can to grow bigger things, but not more nutritious. Anyway, question, could you please roughly draw your islands and where the city in respect to that is? I could, but I don't really want to give out like a map of like, this is where you find me to like just the world, because one of the things I really enjoy about being here is the privacy. It's kind of nice. Not that I don't want anyone to ever come here, but I don't want to really just give that out just publicly, I did do that in Vermont actually, and I started getting a little bit more visitors than was fun, and a lot of the visitors were cool, but then I'd get some really, really crazed visitors. Are you still thinking about building a fallout bunker? Yes, I am totally thinking about building a fallout bunker. well, or a couple. I was thinking about building several little dome bunkers out in the jungle where I have a whole bunch of property on one of the main islands here. And yeah, I want to build some bunkers there. Partly because I think it would be fun. It would also be a fun place to go and hang out. But then, I mean, I would make them buildings that we could use just, normally. But they would always have this purpose of if something goes terribly bad, we can go there and have food there. Like I want to have some emergency rations there and just have them hidden for I don't know, just in case, bug out shelter spots. I'd love to watch videos from you where you catch, harvest, and cook. Oh, I think it was a bit of a typo too. I think you'd be great at fishing videos with your commentary. Well, I haven't done any fishing videos in a while, so yeah, I mean, this has been years since I did any fishing videos. I should do some of those again. Yeah. Hans, please don't ask for his specific address in public chat. He doesn't want strangers coming to mess with his islands. Yeah, I mean, kind of that. I mean, you can ask. It's not a problem. I understand why you... Okay, Patrick, there's a good thing. Yes, if you want to visit, email him. Yes, totally. If you want to visit, just send me an email. I can tell you how to get here and everything. But yeah, like you said, I don't want to just, throw my location out there into public because there are weirdos out in the world. Probably not you, probably not even anyone in this chat. You guys are probably all amazing, but there are definitely some weirdos out in the world. Are there any fun sports events that are organized in your area that you would take part of? Marathons, long distance swimming, etc. There was like a 5-kilometer running race in town, I don't know, a few weeks ago. And I didn't know about it until after. So I guess I totally missed that, but I would have gone because I can still run. But not a lot. I've been thinking about starting to do some events. Long distance swimming. Now that might be a cool thing to do. I do. This is kind of not an immediate thing. This is kind of like a distant future, but it's reasonable that I might actually be able to do this. But I've been thinking about making an athletic field on my bigger piece of land, the one where I want to build the bunkers. This would be in a different spot than the bunkers, of course. But I think I could find a big flattish area, big enough to make at least a 200-meter running track. And, a field in the middle, not like a full-size soccer football field, but, something big enough to have some events there. And then, have some little track meets and stuff like that. I think that would be really cool. I did try to start water polo a while ago, and a few people were interested. It's just I live too far, basically, is what it boiled down to, was the problem. And there aren't really good places to play water polo closer to town because there's too much boat traffic, and you always have to be concerned about getting run over and killed. But around here, Deshaina's Bay is a perfect place to have water polo, or even a swim meet or stuff like that. It's just far for a lot of people. But maybe I'll try that again. I do want to start having more events and doing more social stuff, because I was talking about last week. I want to start getting more community involved, kind of for various reasons. For meeting people that I could collaborate with, meeting people who maybe want to live here, meeting a girlfriend, meeting people who have kids who can be friends to my kids, stuff like that. Although the girlfriend thing, I don't want to say I'm demoralized, but man, trying to meet people today is horrible. It's terrible. People are doing all the wrong things. Maybe I should make a video of why it's so hard for people to connect today. It's just people are so focused on all this superficial nonsense and they're not doing the right things to be able to connect with the person. And this is why so many people, and I talk to a lot of people who have this same situation. It's so difficult to find a person you can really connect with because we're just doing it wrong. Like Tinder, useless. I mean, if you're a player and you just want to have fun, all that internet dating stuff, oh, it's totally set up for that, but not set up for like meeting people and actually connecting with them. All right, you guys need to work on your typing better. What is an island without Telly Savalas? Look, boss, de plane. With apologies. Good job, Lauren. Do you listen to music? I do sometimes listen to music. It's not like a huge part of my life, but I do enjoy music. I listen to music more often when my kids are here, because one of my daughters is very, very into music, and all my kids like to sing. It's really cool. Lately, they've been watching this show, and when I say watching the show, they don't spend all day watching TV. They only watch stuff after dark. Like at my house, there's no TV on in the daytime. But like after dinner, after dark, sometimes we'll watch something. We have movie nights. But anyway, we just had movie nights yesterday and the night before that, and my kids wanted to watch this show, Tangled the series. It's a Rapunzel show, and it's kind of good. It's actually decent. I always watch stuff with them because I want to see what my kids are watching, and then I can also have discussions with them about it and kind of get involved and help steer their morality, and so they understand the correct lessons from the cartoon and stuff. But yeah, this Rapunzel show has songs in it, something about I've got the wind in my hair, and my kids will spend all day singing that, and they know the whole song and everything. I don't know the whole song. Let's see. Why not sail? It's green. Can you legally put a few lobster crab traps out? A gill net. A gill net is a problem legally, and because those gill nets, they just kill too many things, and people do use them around here. And I'll see guys pulling a gill net out of the water, and they're just taking all kinds of dead stuff and just throwing it back in the water like little fish and everything. It's terrible. It's too destructive. Now, a lobster crab pot, I would totally do those. I don't know I think it is okay to put those out. There's probably a season. Lobsters are pretty scarce because they've been overfished because of the tourist thing around here, and people are catching little lobsters to sell to the tourists, and it's terrible. Yeah. Sailing. Okay, sailing. The first boat I made here was a sailboat, actually, and it was great, except when you're sailing amongst lots of little islands and mangrove islands, you can't necessarily always tack. So if you're going against the wind through a small channel, there's not enough space to tack back and forth. So navigating with a sailboat around here is kind of difficult. And I've also spoken with a bunch of people about it. And the general consensus is that here the wind is too unreliable. It changes a lot, and then it'll come and go, and sailing is a little bit tricky here. Not that you can't do it, but I do still think about in future boats, sails. But yeah, I guess that's a reason. I've made a sand battery to store. This is a classic dude, Mike, who also likes to build things. I've made a sand battery to store heat. Sketchy results so far. Any advice? I don't know. Show me. What have you been doing? Send me a couple pictures or stuff. I have never tried to use a sand battery, but I'm guessing it's basically just if you can get the heat into the sand, heat it from the bottom so the heat goes up through. After that, it just comes down to how much sand you're heating and how long you're heating it. And I guess you need to insulate it so you're not just losing heat to the outer, to your surroundings. And then you have to have some kind of heat taker-offer to get the heat out of it. And you can probably only get heat out of it at a certain rate because the heat's going to move through the sand at a certain rate. But yeah, send me a picture or something, or a video of what you have. That'd be interesting to see. When he had a sailboat in his cove, corrupt locals started showing up for bribes. Sailboats mean rich gringos in that area. That is true. So I did have a big sailboat here, and like 2 days after it was parked, you can see the sails, like from really far away because they're so tall. Yeah, some corrupt officials came by and were trying to get me to bribe them, basically. They'd say, "Oh, do you have permits for this thing you don't need permits for?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I don't need permits for that." "Well, what about all the mangroves you've cut?" I'm like, "No, there's no cut mangroves here." Or what about your dock? And I'm like, "No, it's a floating dock. I don't need a permit." And they just kept going through things and basically just kind of trying to harass me and shake me down. And I'm presuming, and they weren't that pushy, probably because they go to gringos places who have a lot of money, and they show up and they say, "Oh, we're gonna come look at stuff," and then these idiot freaking rich people are just like, "What if I give you $400? Would that make you go away?" And they're like, "Yep," and they're gone. And they can just come back. They come right back the next month. And oh God, I hate when people do stupid things like that. And then I'll have conversations with them, and they'll say, "Oh, it's the only way to get rid of them. You gotta pay them, or else they don't leave." And like, you know what? Let them stay. Because the one time they visited me, they stayed for an hour and a half. And when they left, you know what they said to themselves and to each other? "God, that was a waste of time. An hour and a half and we got nothing. Let's not go back to that guy's place." And they've never come back since. But you know what they say when they leave your place with $400? They say, "Whoa, what was that? $5 in gas. We drove up here. We made $400 in about 30 seconds. Boom, cha-ching. Let's come back here every month." Like, yeah. Yeah, so I ended up, like the day after that, I cut the mast down. And now one mast pieces of that mast are holding up my third floor here. And another piece is outside doing nothing. And I think I'm going to use the smaller of the two masts on my lumber mill. I think that looks like it's what's going to happen. All right, Lee Douglas McGreevy has sent me some emoticons, some little pictures. I don't know what they mean, but yay! But I bet he will make a sailboat at some point. I will probably put a sail on another boat in the future at some point. Yeah. Any plans to upgrade power on the boat and make those trips to town faster and easier on the legs? Well, I don't want to make them too easy on my legs. Like, I feel like these agonizingly difficult pedal trips I get once in a while, like when I get no sun and the wind's in my face and I just got to pedal hard. Those are kind of good for me, keeping me from getting old. But I do kind of want to build another boat. Well, okay. I'm starting to think instead of building another boat, I'm just going to refurbish the Shark Slicer, which is my biggest boat. It's the cargo boat. It's the one I'm building pedals for right now. And I'm thinking I might actually put batteries on it again and get it a big enough motor that I can kind of speed up the trips to town and trips to places. Because if I can take some time off the trip to town and back, it'll just make it so I'm not in such a rush all the time. Because whenever I go into town, I'm always like, all right, 1 or 2 hours, you got to get in everything I can and get out and zoom home. It would be nice to have a little bit more relaxed, especially since I'm trying to be a little bit more social now. So yeah, I'm going to see if I can get that boat going a little faster to town. My neighbor, who's borrowing one of my boats and put his own motor on it, he has a gas motor. We can get to town in his boat a lot faster. So I don't know. Maybe we'll make some plans to do some more socializing going in his boat. Converting Bitcoin to precious metals. Yes. We should send you a dehydrator and vacuum sealer. Dehydration is the best way to store food. It preserves the most nutrients. Well, that's a good thing. A few years ago now, when I got a lot of mangoes, I dried out a whole bunch. And those are so delicious. And I dried out like I don't know, probably like 150 mangoes, like a lot. But they did not last because they were so delicious. My kids are like, oh, yum, yum. And then I'm all like, we should save these. Yeah, we should save these. Never mind. Let's just eat them. And we just ate them all like in a week or two because they were so amazingly delicious. Um, but yeah, I want to get to the point where I'm growing more food than we can eat, and then I'll start, preserving it, drying it, canning it. Deshana does pressure canning. Some canned food has been edible at 100 or more years. Well, that's cool. Okay, someone just said a word that I don't understand. Matt is saying hygroscopic with question mark. What's hygroscopic? I don't know what hygroscopic means. And I can't look it up on here while I'm doing this. Strong people don't put people down. They lift them up, then slam them into the ground for maximum damage. Wait, what? Oh. Oh, I read it wrong the first time. Strong people don't put people down. They lift them up and then slam them into the ground for maximum damage. Yes, I get you. Very funny, very funny. But it is true that strong people do lift people up, not to slam them, even though that was very funny. Not put them down. And it is very easy to put people down, especially when we're living in a society where it's kind of encouraged. Like you're always supposed to like crap on the people around you because it's funny and witty and all this stuff. But yeah, it's not a good thing. Question: Hey G. Who's G? You must be talking about someone else. But what's the ETA of your own game? I really want to try it. Who's making a game? Are you talking to me? Because I would be Jay. I did make a video game, and that is finished, and you can totally play it online. I don't remember what the link is now. I mean, not that I would remember the link, but if you look up the Adventure Builder video game on Scirra, Scirra, or it's also, actually, I'm not sure if that's the newest version. It's also on itch, itch.io, I think it is. But if you just type in the Adventure Builder video game, I think it comes up. It should come up in your search, and it'll be obvious because it'll be like there's like a picture of me on the cover with this robot, and I'm holding a rope and stuff. Anyway, Ultima 6 was my favorite. Patrick, yes. Ultima 6 was my favorite too. That one was amazing. After Ultima 6, they kind of dropped off and fell apart, in my opinion. 7, 8, and 9. I don't really consider those to be part of the Ultima series. It's kind of like Aliens. Alien and Aliens, amazing. Alien 3, I don't know what that was. That was something else. Yeah. Ultima 7, 8, and 9. I don't know what those were. Now, Ultima Underworld, was that really good? Because I never really got into those. I played one a little bit because a friend had it. But now I think you can get them for free because they're so old. Maybe I should try it. Okay, Lawns2K says, sorry if you already answered this. I'm a little late, but did you see the video that All right, I already answered that earlier. Well, Patrick answered this for me. He said, I don't want to watch it and I don't care. It's not that I don't care. I think it's more that I might care too much about something that like I put my heart and soul into, maybe I'll care too much. I don't want to know what other people are doing with a place I used to have. Did you get my email of my float? Maybe I'll check again. Did you send it to the Adventure Builder movie at gmail.com, the one that's in the thing here? I feel like I do remember there was something about a float. Maybe I just didn't respond to it. Next giant robot going to be for aesthetics or functional on the island? Well, I want to build another giant robot that's not just aesthetics. I'm not sure what its function. Well, yeah, I do want to make something functional. I want to make something that I could actually use to transport, and maybe I can even make it be a heavy mover, like actually not just a people mover, but like I could actually move cargo and stuff like that. I kind of want to. I don't know. I want to make it definitely functional in some way. You know, if nothing else, I feel like having a giant robot that moves around and does stuff would deter a lot of people from possibly causing problems. Like if you say you were a thief or something. Not that I haven't had any problems with thieves, so it's good. But there are thieves, you know, around. I know people who've had problems. But say you're a thief and you're looking to cause trouble, and you go to this island, and you're kind of scoping it out during the daytime, keeping an eye on it, and you see some giant robot walking around. Oh, yeah. Let's just move on to the next place. Let's not mess with the place that has a giant robot. I was asking for a rough sketch. Okay, no robot, foiling boat. I don't know if I want to build a foiling boat, like a hydrofoil boat. I think I would rather build a flying, like a what's it called, a ground effect airplane. We want to see flying over water. Well, I'm working on it. Cable robots like Skycam can be giant, and I think they can be used to tend garden and do other useful work outside. They can also be small and are very educational. Our friend Wigglesworth says hi. Well, hello. Oh, you have the same first name as Wigglesworth. Hello, Wigglesworth. I hope you're having a good time. Why don't you use your chainsaw inside of the swing mill? You have a deeper cut depth and it's self-powered. Well, the fuel is actually one of the major reasons. I don't want to use the gas. I don't want to cut wood using a fossil fuel, because then I'm dependent on, you know, the gas station, which is just the store over there. I don't want to have to keep buying fuel to cut wood. It is okay. So let me take my boat for example. Whenever I get in my boat, I can just get in my boat and drive around. I don't have to get in my boat and think, okay, how many dollars of gasoline am I spending? Is this worth it? Like, I can just go in my boat and just go for a fun drive, and I don't have to think like, oh, I'm spending money on gasoline and I need to go get gasoline and all this stuff. And I don't want to think every time I'm cutting boards, kind of with this little ticker going by, tick, 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 this is money going down the tubes for gasoline that you're using to cut these boards. I want to just be able to take a log and say, I've got everything set up. I can just cut the boards. It's not using anything. It's using the sun power, which is coming anyway. And also, I don't know what the price of gasoline is going to do. I don't want that to change my life drastically. I don't want my life to drastically change because gasoline prices, something I have no control over. And then another thing is, yes, a chainsaw will cut a deeper cut, but it also cuts a fatter cut. So it wastes a lot more wood than a circular saw blade. And that also means it has to use a lot more energy to cut that wood. Now, I love getting, you know, the wood chips and bits. I can use those for stuff, but I'd rather waste less of the wood and get more boards. Oh, and the other thing is chainsaw, you'd have to keep sharpening it. With a circular saw blade, it has carbide tips. They last way, way longer without having to sharpen them. So, although I'll keep my gas-powered chainsaw for cutting logs that I can then move to here. Question, have you seen anything weird in the jungles? Well, I've seen myself, and people have told me I'm a little weird, so, you know. Let me think. What have I seen that's weird in the jungles? A toucan. They're amazing and beautiful, but they are kind of weird with that big honking beak. But it is pretty cool to walk out into the jungle and just be like, just walking around on my own trails and be like, hey, there's a toucan, cool. I don't know if I'd say anything weird. Like it's a jungle. It's full of jungly stuff. It's pretty cool. Hi, Jaimie. Great that you are back. Where did I go? Why have you chosen to build so much in concrete and not in wood? All right, let me answer that. I can answer that real quick. Termites. And, you know, general rot. So this here, presuming I did a decent job building it, my great-grandchildren can live in this house. If I built a house out of wood, I could build a house a lot faster, but I'm going to have to replace it way sooner than I would have to replace a concrete building. So I'm trying to do everything here thinking long term, like as long term as I can reasonably do. So yes, it takes a lot longer to build things in masonry, but it lasts way more longer. And if it takes me, if it takes me 10 times as long to build in concrete and it lasts 100 times what wood would, it's totally worth it. Like at 10 times more longevity per work. And living in a tropical environment, the wood does not last as long as it would in, like a colder climate that's drier. It's definitely got a not too long lifespan here. Oh, and you're from Denmark, so you can probably build things with wood there, and then it'll last much longer than here. And you don't have the termite problems that we have here. I may be naive, but aren't you surrounded by super good hardwood? Yes, there's lots of good hardwood, although it's not as easy to find as it used to be because people keep using it. But still, even the hardwood, in a tropical environment, there's moisture, there's heat, and there's bugs, things get into it, and it doesn't last like it would in a colder climate. Do you plan on starting like a guest house, hostel, or anything down the line? Yeah, so I'm building this thing on the top of my hill behind my house that I've been calling a guest house, and it's going to have other functions than that. But one of the things I was thinking was, I could have guests there. I can have guests, of course, in my house here too. I just have to like them, preferably. The nice thing about having a separate guest house is you don't have to like them as much. So in the event that you get some people or some person who comes and it's kind of like they're kind of a drag, it's not as bad when they're in a separate house. But if people want to come visit now, people come visit now occasionally, and it's totally fine. You just have to email me and say, hey, and then we can talk about it, make some kind of plan or whatever. If you go back and watch all his older videos, that might drive you crazy. You can figure out the location, but respect his privacy and keep it to yourself. Yes, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Just be respectful, Jack Hackaday, Jaimie, great dadding. Well, thanks. When I was a kid, I didn't like meat, so my parents, oh my gosh, my kids do not have that problem. So my parents would feed me just noodles, but I would puke and be sick if I ate the nasty sauce. I still think it's a great idea to motivate healthy behavior in your context, though. But who should decide what's healthy? My story was at the recommendation of a doctor who said meat was healthy, and so I ate only carbs and butter and breakfast cereal for years. Anyways, I'm going to go make a chainmail winding machine. Ooh, thanks for all the inspiration over the years. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you have to pay attention to your own body. And if you have kids, you kind of have to make that decision for them by observing them and seeing how they do based on certain foods. And so, for instance, one of my daughters will eat so many raw peppers that she starts burping a lot and like kind of feeling bad. like my kids will eat raw vegetables, just like they love raw vegetables. And if there are plants outside where they can eat the leaves, I have to stop them from stripping the plants of all the leaves because they'll just kill a plant by eating it all. Like they're like giraffes. But one of my daughters would eat so many peppers that she would actually kind of feel sick. So I had to tell her, hey, just eat one at a time. Just slow it down a little bit. But yeah, if you have a bad reaction to meat or whatever, yeah, I mean, you got to do whatever you have to do. Let's see. Said meat was healthy. Wait, I think I read that already. Oh. Also, might be personal question, so if you don't want to answer, no worries. Your children, especially your daughter Aurora, growing older, what is her take on living off-grid in their future? Well, that's something that always comes up when I talk about people who want to move off-grid. There's always this, yeah, but I want to have kids, or I don't want to force my kids to live off grid, like I'm making these decisions for them. The thing is, regardless of where you live and what you're doing, you're making this decision for your kids. So you're going to have to make some decision for your kids. So just try to make the best one you can and realize that they don't have a choice until they get older. Okay, now what do my kids think of living off grid? They seem to like it. I mean, they have a good time here. They'll run up and yell at me, "You're the best papa ever," which is, this is all, when you're a dad, that's all you want to hear, man. You're the best papa ever. Just, yeah, that's the best. I don't know. Like, if my kids want to live some other life in some other place, I mean, they'll do that. My job, I think, is to make this place a home for them and make it the best I can make it and get them involved in being here and all that stuff. And if they end up wanting to do something else, fine. Although I think that the idea that kids are always supposed to go off and do something else is only a product of kind of a spoiled society we have right now. Like, that's not historically been the case. Like, we've kind of gotten not just a spoiled society, but kind of a corrupted one, where we're told that kids are supposed to leave home. They're supposed to want to get away. But that's only possible in a society where families aren't important, families don't stick together. You know, you rely on the government to take care of you instead of your family, which I think is a mistake. I think that's a huge mistake in our society. So the idea that is always put out, and I'm sure I could word this much better than I am, but the idea today is like, everyone has independence. So as soon as you're an adult, you go off and you get all this independence and you become alone is the problem. And you don't have people to watch your back, and you don't have people to work with. But the government is going to take care of you. They're going to be your family. So people are going off and being alone on their own, thinking the government is going to take care of them. That's their family replacement. But if you go back in time, you know, historically, your family was your family. Like, you stick with your family because they're the ones who are going to make sure that they're going to help make sure you eat and have a roof over your head. And in our society today, people are taking for granted that they're going to have a roof over the head and they're going to be able to eat and all this stuff. But I mean, right now our culture is declining, and I think part of it is because of that mentality of taking it for granted. And at some point, we're not going to be able to take it for granted anymore, because there's not going to be roofs over everyone's head and food in everyone's mouth. And it's becoming increasingly a problem even now. You hear more and more about people losing their homes and people having difficulty getting enough food. And, you know, it's just all falling apart. And I think over time, it's going to become more and more important for people to stick with their families. And, you know, when a family builds a home, that's going to become an increasingly valuable thing as our culture declines. So I don't know if that really answers the question, but, you know. Ever seen videos like from Japan where they build an exoskeleton, like an exoskeleton robot kind of thing? Have you ever thought about building one yourself instead of another robot so you could wear it for extra strength? Yes, I actually have designs, pretty good designs that I think will work very well for an exoskeleton, like a suit you can get in, make it super strong. I really want to build that too. Yeah, I think that'll be a really cool thing to build, a really fun thing to build. And the cool thing about that is I really just have to build one functioning joint that works really well and get all the bugs worked out on that one joint. So maybe just like make one elbow joint so it goes like that with super strength, both directions, you know, get all the details worked out. And once all the details are worked out, then it's just a matter of, you know, copying that to all the other joints and, you know, making everything else work. But that's definitely a project that I've wanted to do for a long time. Build an exoskeleton strength suit. I wonder why you wouldn't know the song about feeling wind in your hair. Oh, snap. Oh, snappy doodle doo. You got me right in the feelings. Oh, maybe your location would suit a wind turbine on a battery boat, although solar seems good. I want to build a wind turbine on my other little island right there. So where I am right now, it's two islands. I'm on the bigger one where I built my house, but then right over there, there's a littler one. That's where I'm building the bridge to the other little island. I kind of want to build like a wind turbine up on that island. Let's see, foiling boats, scrutiny. Not sure what you guys are talking about, but cool. Yeah, a great solar foil would be great. Has anyone Someone must have built a solar powered foil boat. Not just for one of those competitions, but like one that people actually use. Just enough solar to maintain speed when up on the foils and just enough battery to boost up to the foil once you're going. Yeah, I mean, yeah. The problem with hydrofoils here at the moment is that I'm always moving cargo. So, the foils would be great one direction when my boat's empty, but then I put all the stuff on the boat and then the foils are useless. I basically have to pull them out of the water, and then it's an extra thing on the boat getting in the way of the cargo. So it's just, how worried are you about climate change at your location? Yeah, I mean, that's something to think about. My house is 2 meters above high tide sea level, more or less. And according to the models, the estimations, I should be good for, well over a century. And but yeah, I mean, it's something to consider. Yeah. I try to make sure I build my stuff up a little bit because, although overall our planet is cooling in the big time scale of things. So, but anyway, could imagine Matrix, Inception, Interstellar would be Jaimie's style. Let's see. I'm not sure. I do like those movies. Well, Interstellar, I had serious problems with that movie. Actually, I didn't really enjoy Inception either. And Matrix, I thought the first Matrix was amazing, and then after that, they just kind of were like silly and boring. I still watched them, but Interstellar, they lost me. Like there were a lot of plot holes in that movie. It was just full of plot holes. But they lost me when they went to the planet beside the black hole, and it was like they went down to the planet knowing the circumstances, but behaving as if they didn't understand the time dilation. They went down to the planet, and when they came back, they had this big realization. Oh, the person on the planet that went before us was experiencing the time warp, and we didn't think about that before we went down because we're just like, why would we think about things ahead of time? There was I don't remember exactly what the details were, but there was some problem with that just made no sense to me, and I was like, this is just silliness. And then it just got sillier. How is everyone? Mr. Landfill says, do you have any predatory animals where you live that you have to be cautious about? Well, I mean, the ocean has things in it. Nothing. I've never had a situation in the ocean. I have seen a giant jellyfish, like big jellyfish with huge long tentacles. I got out of the water immediately, and then the next day it washed up on shore and dried out. I guess it was dying. I've seen a shark. There are other jellyfish. I've gotten a little sting like on my arm from a jellyfish tentacle. It's not a big deal. And there are some poisonous snakes around, which there are no snakes on my island unless they swim here. But out in the jungle, I've occasionally seen a snake. But it's the kind of thing where, like, before I moved to the tropics, I would hear about these poisonous animals, and I'd be like, oh no, that's going to be a problem. But now that I'm here, it's like I see them so rarely. I haven't had any problems with animals. In Vermont, a bear lived near me for a while. And there were also moose. Moose can be pretty dangerous. Okay, let's see. Moon is the best film. Not for kids though. Moon. I do remember Moon. I don't know if it was the best film. It was a little depressing, but I mean, yeah, I did enjoy that movie. Maybe enjoy it's not the right word, but yeah, I got it, you know. Just came home and heard you talking about you tempted to share a petrol fuel ride to the city. Yeah, I mean, I would go in my friend's boat, but no, I would generally I would I always choose to go in my boat because it's, you know, human power and solar power. But I mean, if my friend wants to go in his gas boat, I'm not going to say no. I refuse to go. You know, whatever. It's fine. The dog aliens in Alien 3 had so much promise, and in my mind, they were cool. Yeah, I don't even remember that much of Aliens 3. Okay, you know, the problem in Aliens 3 is that in the space between the movies, between Aliens and, you know, the second one and the third one, they erased everything of value that happened in the second one. And I hate when that happens. You know, in TV shows or movies or anything like that, it's just kind of a lazy writing thing. It's like the writer's like, oh, we need some new thing to solve, a new problem. Oh, well, let's just say between the movies or the episodes or whatever, some terrible thing happened, killed a bunch of people that were important, and now we can make a movie about solving it. I hate that crap. So in Aliens, the second one, Ripley went to all this trouble to save herself, to save a kid, to save this other guy. Like four people made it out of there alive. And then between the second and the third movie, they were all dead, including Ripley. I mean, she wasn't literally dead yet, but she had an alien in her that was she was basically dead. And so, you know, right at the beginning of the third Aliens movie, I'm just like, well, you just threw away everything from the last movie. What do I care now? It's all, you know, it's all wrecked. Question. Are you going to build a new smelting forge and blacksmith forge on the island? I do plan to, yes. I'm going to try to answer some of these questions a little faster now because we're getting up to 2 hours here. Just watched a live stream by some Russian dudes from a boat between Thai islands full. They're just telling me my internet's not that great. Yeah, I mean, I could pay for faster internet, but I think I have better ways to use the money. Yes, it was just a few photos of it cobbled together. I'll send you more. Oh, okay. Let's see. Let's steal this giant robot. Yeah. That's why I ride a bike in the mountains. I love your boats for that same pedal power, not dependent on gas, no worry lifestyle. Yeah, even though it is a lot more physically demanding to ride a pedal boat, it's so much more relaxing. Partly because, you know, you do end up more relaxed when you get more exercise. But then also it's just like anytime I'm driving my boat, I'm not thinking I'm using up gas. I'm using up fuel in my own body, but that's actually good for me. It makes me stronger. But if I'm using up gas, then all I'm doing is making so I'm gonna have to pay more money and you know, spend money on maintenance. And all right. And I make a point at least once a year in the worst, coldest weather to go on a long bike ride. Keeps you young. Yeah, it's really good to give to be in a situation where you have occasional very difficult situations that you have to fight through. It's just really good for your soul or whatever. You could go for a Chebyshev linkage on your next robot. I don't know what that means. Let me write it down. I think I'm spelling this right. Chebyshev linkage. Generally, if I'm going to spend as much time as I will building something like a giant robot, I want to come up with some new design myself. I don't want to just like make something that someone else came up with and then put that much work into it. Yeah, I want to come up with something. Speaking of building it right, Deshana just did a video repairing cracks in her house. Have you solved the problem that caused that? Oh, I don't know if we want to have that conversation. That has been oh, I can't solve it. um, termites ate the foundation of her house out from under her, and she let it happen, and that has been uh, an uncomfortable discussion, let's say. Let's see. I'm gonna skip through a bunch of stuff because I'm pretty far behind on comments here. So if you have a question or something, I need to think. Okay, here's a question. Can you make a geodesic dome by making triangle panels in concrete rather than struts and connectors? Yeah, totally. I built a concrete dome by making triangles when I was in Vermont. It was the Spring House. So if you look up Spring House and my name, Jaimie Mansell, you can probably see video of me making triangle panels and then putting them together into a dome. Let's see, I gotta skip through. Sorry if I'm missing some important stuff. Aliens 3 was a train wreck, yeah. Oh, this thing crashed. Yeah, show all the comments. All right, either I'm caught up on comments or this thing is not showing them all. All right, maybe I am caught up. All right, let me back up a little bit. Perhaps metal lathe and trowel the cement on for non-structural areas of the build. I'm not sure what that's talking about. Thanks for your input on the sand battery. I'll look into heat-proof insulation. Oh yeah, you didn't insulate the sand battery? I would presume you need to insulate the sand battery so you're not just losing the heat to the space around. Have you ever thought about making a gasifier to run your gas engines? Well, I've thought about it. I actually downloaded the, what was it? The United States at some point, they gave out plans, to build a gasifier. I actually downloaded that, but I don't have any gasoline engines at this point, other than my chainsaw, and I'm not going to run a gasifier through my chainsaw. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any intention of doing that. Like, it makes sense if you have gas engines already and you run it and you can't get gasoline, then it's like a backup thing. But no, he has solar panels, no need for a gasifier. Yeah, kind of that. You can make a wind turbine from an old ceiling fan. I don't think that's going to be good enough for what I want to do. But I don't know how much output you'd get. Or do you mean like from the motor part? Like, I wouldn't want to use an old ceiling fan just for the blades, but you're talking about the generator part, the motor part. You turn it into a generator. I don't know. Is he helping Deshana fix her crumbling dome? Her dome is not crumbling. That thing is tough, and I made it that way, knowing she may neglect it a little bit. But yes, I have been helping her. But the thing is, I don't want to get into a whole thing about that. I love Blade Runner. Blade Runner is kind of a cool movie. A little bit depressing, but cool. I didn't see the new Blade Runner. Yo, just tuning in, Nalis Solus. Question. Oh, can you think of a new project to use the cool mechanism you made for the dozer? So the mechanism I made for the bulldozer is like a fancy kind of steering thing that, like, it controls all four wheels in a way that they're all getting power at the same time, and it can do tank turns and it can do like car turns, and I don't know, maybe. Yeah, I don't really have any other plans to use it for anything right now, but it did work very well for the bulldozer. I still need to take the bulldozer apart and bring it over here. And at this point, I definitely have to take it apart. I can't drive it out of Deshane's Island because there's just too much stuff in the way at this point. Morning, Jaimie. Have you read how they just learned more about how ancient Roman concrete was made so strong? I don't know anything about that. Do I need to look up something about Roman concrete and how they made it so strong? From what I understand, the big thing about Roman concrete compared to today's concrete, well, there are two things. One is that it doesn't weaken in salt water. so you can make seawalls, and it was really good for seawalls, and it would actually get stronger over time in the seawater. Um, but other than that, it didn't really have any significant advantages over modern concrete, from what I understand, like aside from the seawater thing. And the reason that modern concrete fails after 50 years is not because of the concrete, it's because of the rebar, the steel inside it. Because the steel has some kind of reaction, or there's some kind of thing going on between the steel and the concrete that protects the steel from rusting for a while. And then once the steel does start rusting, it expands and pops the concrete open. So your steel reinforcement makes the concrete incredibly strong in tension at the beginning, but then it ends up ultimately destroying itself. And Roman concrete didn't have any steel in it, so it didn't have that problem. But there might be more to this than I'm understanding. Morning, Jaimie. Oh, that's a new Blade Runner is just as good. Best sequel ever. Oh, well, maybe I'll have to watch it, I guess. I don't know. I'm not that excited about it, but I don't know. Maybe it's good. It's apparently at least somewhat self-healing. Well, concrete in general is somewhat self-healing from what I understand, because the crystals continue growing like for a really long period of time. It just slows down the rate at which the crystals grow, but it does keep getting stronger, as far as I understand. Now, maybe I have to do more research, but I wouldn't say I have excellent information on this. But yeah, as far as I know, this concrete here will continue getting stronger over time, which means, if it got a small enough crack, like it should theoretically kind of seal itself together, but only if it's touching. But I don't know. I don't actually know about that. Ever thought about making a solar amphibious vehicle? Yes, as a matter of fact. My current leading, and this is something I think about regularly, my leading idea for a next giant robot is amphibious and will be solar powered. And yeah, you can drive it on land, drive it into the water, it'll swim or whatever you call it. So yes, definitely. I also had ideas for making like a recumbent bicycle that you could drive right into the water, and that would actually have hydrofoils on it. And the only reason I haven't done anything like that at all is because, like I said earlier, I'm always taking cargo places now. So just a personal vehicle that can just hold my own body weight isn't that useful for me. Blade Runner, Tyrell, Man of the Year. I haven't seen the movie, so I have no idea what you're talking about. Question, will you make a video of an updated tour of Jaimie's Island? The last one was made 4 years ago. 4 years ago? Wow. Well, let me write that down. Update, well, let's just say tour of my island. Yeah, the last one was 4 years ago. Geez. Wait, I must have done something since then, because my house has only been here for like 2 years. Have I not done one since I built my house? All right, I'm gonna have to do a tour of my island. There are a few other things that other videos that I kind of need to do, and I have a little list over here. One is show how I sharpen drill bits with an angle grinder. Give some lessons for that, and I don't know, a couple other things. September 2018. That was the last time I did a tour. Was that of this island? Did I give a tour of this island in 2018? Okay, question. As mentioned, you had a construction job. Will you film it? Well, the construction job was actually on Deshaina's house. So, for the most part, I'm trying to let Deshaina take care of her own house, because there's a situation that happens where it's very easy for her to get into the habit of just asking me to do everything all the time, every little tiny thing, even things she should do for herself. So at some point I said, okay, look, this is your island, you need to take care of it. This is your house, you take care of it. This is yours. And over the last couple of years, she's kind of like started like mentally taking ownership of her place and feeling more responsible for it. And she's even told me about this. Like she feels like it's hers now, because I'm not just it's because before it was like it was just some hotel she was living in, and I was just taking care of it, you know. But now it's becoming like hers mentally, and so we agreed that I shouldn't just come over and fix everything all the time. So she basically paid me to do some work on a roof. She didn't actually pay me because at the end I'm like, whatever, I don't care about the money. You're gonna spend it anyway because you spend my money. It's the same money. But it's just it was kind of just having some kind of formality between me just fixing everything on her house all the time. So anyway, yeah, it was I did a bunch of work on her roof, fixing up her roof, helping with some of the cracks and stuff. That was the construction job. Lime helps with cracks in concrete. Okay, well, let me just finish reading this. Did you use lime in your water tank mix? I did not. I just used normal concrete. I would still be interested in a plant tree walk also that you mentioned with the sawmill dude. Loving the films. A plant tree walk. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Like there's a local guy here who said he would walk through the jungle with me and identify a bunch of trees. Yeah. When I do that, I should definitely take my camera and at least record on camera the names of each tree and get a shot of the bark and the leaves and stuff, so I can then look back at it and get a view of all that. So lime helps with cracks in the concrete. So if I mix lime in with the concrete, that'll help. Or do I paint the lime on after? Coincidentally, just like 2 days ago, I just put this on Amazon wish list because whenever something comes up like this, I'll put it on Amazon wish list first and see if someone gets it for me, and if they don't, then I'll end up buying it myself. But I put on my Amazon wish list the other day lime wash. I had to kind of search around to find it, but apparently someone sells old style whitewash, like lime wash, that they used to paint on concrete, and it's white, and it hardens the concrete, makes it more waterproof, and from what I understand, it'll also kind of seal hairline cracks and stuff like that. So it's basically just a coating that, not even a coating, it soaks into the concrete and makes it stronger. So I'm hopefully going to get some of that and paint it on the whole building. And I kind of want to paint it on the entire building. It'll make it whiter, and maybe someone was saying before, it'd be like an ivory tower. You can get it tinted and colored, but I don't know. I don't know that much about it, but I'm definitely going to do videos of the lime wash, the whitewashing, and see how that goes, because I'm curious about it. It's like what they used to use before they started, just using silicone for everything, basically. What were winters in Vermont like in terms of getting work done and your shop? Well, let's see. It was definitely hard to get a lot of stuff done in the Vermont winter because it was snow. It was frozen. Everything was covered in snow. So doing work outside was very limited. My house was always warm because it had all those south-facing windows, and there was a wood stove inside. So heat was never a problem in my house. And then I had a workshop, and when I got that insulated with all the styrofoam boxes, it was amazing in there. And I had this huge wood stove in there, and I could get the entire building. And that building was pretty big. And I could get the whole building warm enough that I would just take off not all my clothes, but take off my shirt even. And it was just warm, and I could work on things in there. That was amazing. That was really cool. Let's see. Lime goes in the mix. Also, for background, you can research lime render. Let's see. Lime render. Render. Oh, writing like a I'm writing like a medical doctor here. I'm going to be able to read it later. That they use in Europe on castles. So lime render they use in Europe on castles. I think that's what I put on my Amazon wish list the other day, is probably what you're calling lime render, like lime wash. Unless, I don't know, maybe it's something else. Lime turns into a glue when water gets into a crack of concrete. That's why Roman concrete lasts so long. Okay, so if I have lime wash and I paint it on the building, it should do this effect. Hopefully it still works after the fact, and you know, because it does soak into the concrete from what I understand. If nothing else, it should soak into any hairline cracks, right? And glue them together. I was talking about lime in the context of water tanks. A small amount in the mix ratio fills micro cracks, works great. Also, lime wash is amazing. So is the lime you're talking about the same thing as the lime wash, but the lime wash is just, it's mixed with water? I used it in a chicken coop. It was so beautiful. So in my water tanks, I just use cement mixed with sand and rocks and water, and didn't do anything fancy, and it doesn't leak. Although originally it did seem like it was seeping water out until the water tank was totally full one day because it rained a lot, and I threw a bunch of clay in it. And I did that and then stirred it all up, and my thinking there was that the clay would stick to the walls and would get pushed through any tiny cracks and seal them. And it seems to have done that. And then the rest of the clay that didn't stick to the walls or whatever, didn't go in any cracks, it ended up just settling down to the bottom, which also helps seal the bottom. So I didn't end up having, clay water or anything. I just made sure I didn't turn on the water for a while after I put the clay in there. But the clay seemed to do the trick in the concrete water tanks. But that's interesting about the lime. If I do another one, I'll have to try this lime situation. Have you heard about living tree architecture for buildings and bridges? Well, I can guess what you're talking about. And living tree architecture is pretty cool. I would be a little bit wary of building something significant out of living trees here, because like say I have a couple trees making something and one tree gets rot and the termites get in it, man, then what do I have to chisel out all that dead wood and then get a new tree to grow in there? I don't know. That lime wash might chap concrete long term and make it want to flake off. Hear me out. The surface after 100 years of treatment has a case hardening. Right, lime wash. Yeah, okay. So the concern is that if I put lime wash on the surface of the concrete and it's not mixed in, then the surface is going to be different than the inside and it might start falling off. Yeah, that's a possibility. So I've heard that to kind of mitigate that issue, you make your lime water really watery so it soaks in a lot. So that's what I was going to do, and just do a whole bunch of coats and hope it soaks in. But yeah, maybe from now on I'll start mixing a bit into the concrete. You know what's really annoying? Like I'm always saying, like, it's hard to do any good internet research because you look stuff up, you can't find anything really useful. When I was building the concrete water tanks, I spent a bunch of time looking up concrete water tanks and trying to get some information. I got nothing about lime, and basically just useless crap about plastic linings and all this stuff I wasn't going to do. It's not till now that I'm hearing about this lime thing that I could do in the thing. So that's pretty cool. Lime wash has a sparkle and has a purifying aspect to the air. Ooh. Has a basic smell. It's crazy how cheap and awesome it is. So stoked you are going to mess around with it. Yeah, if you know a really cheap source of lime, let me know, because I found some on Amazon. I think it was like $90 for 5 gallons worth. So I don't know if that's good or not, but the case hardening in a few years are missed. Would want to separate because the surface is heating and cooling and expanding differently, right? I don't know about lime wash on exterior concrete, but the coop, the chicken coop, is awesome. Also, lime and concrete mix is fun to experiment with. Yeah, I think it's called Lime-O-Aid. I think the lime calcifies the microcracks basically. They get plugged up. They get clogged up. Yeah. All right. We're at an hour and 10 or 2 hours and 10 minutes here. And now I'm wondering where Tomaters is. Hopefully he's having a good day. And I hope everyone else is having a good day. I'm going to get off this thing and try to do some real life. And I hope everyone else is having an excellent day. And thanks for the information, you guys. This has been super useful. Oh, my dad used to build houses in Argentina. He mixed Cal E Portland, lime, and Portland cement all the time. Search for type S hydrated lime. Type S hydrated lime. Type S hydrated lime. 50-pound bag of dry. 50-pound bag. Oops. £50 bag, right. $30 for 50-pound bag. $30. That's what I'm aiming for. Thanks for the years of inspiration, Dan says. Well, thanks for being here, man. Classic Dude Mike, over and out. Thanks, Jaimie. All right. I hope you guys have an excellent day. Go get some lunch or dinner or do whatever you're going to do. And I hope everyone keeps working hard to make the world the best place they can. Take care of the world around you. And I'm out of here. Oh, wait. I got to read the last message. Yes, you can make your own lime burning shells. I want to do that. But I don't have the time right now. But I do plan to do that in the future. Okay, I better get out of here. I'm going to read this all day. Okay.